Crypto joined.
All right. I don't know what happened there. We had a little bit of a snafu. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel. I've got a special guest with me here today. If you haven't liked and subscribed already to Money Gang Crypto, right over there, go give him a like and sub. The link is in my description below. And we are going to just get everything out in the open tonight. We're going to air all of our grievances. And I want to really slow things down for, no child left behind kind of thing. For the people that might be new here, that might not quite get it yet, we're going to try to explain to you today what's going on in the crypto world as we're nearing a bottom. There's craziness going on all across the board. Hex, what is going on with Richard Heart? We're going to talk about Sam Bankman fraud, and all of his lovely antics, all the latest interviews and all that. And we could even touch on the SEC and some FUD and other fan fiction narratives that people are telling themselves. But before we go any farther, guys, I want to explain to you why I do what I do. And I make these thumbnails and these titles very deliberately. So I feel like there's a bunch of people out there that just don't quite understand. They can't read between the lines or have that higher order thinking that I try to teach people how to do. It's critical thinking, right? Thinking for yourself, taking all the facts that you know to be true, and then forming your own opinion. And so when I make a title like, is Richard Heart spending Hex money on designer clothes? Well, rule number one is that if a YouTube title ever asks you a question, the answer is always no. Okay? That's just like a general rule of thumb. It's called clickbait for a reason, guys. And it's called clickbait because I actually care about getting my message out there to new people. So you might get triggered by it. It might hurt your little feelings or whatever. But for those that have the ears to listen and the eyes to see and understand what I'm talking about, this video is for you. And so I hope that this interview with Money Gang is going to be eye-opening and get new people on board that might have been on the fence about Hex or might not even be into crypto completely in general. Because, guys, we can circle jerk with each other all day long and talk about how great Hex is and, which cryptos are good and bad all day. But the whole goal of everything, the only way crypto works is if we onboard the world. And so I need to reach new people by punching out. And I read something on Twitter the other day that just basically gave me brain cancer. And it was some faceless troll who, isn't even worth naming, right? Probably in his parents' basement or something. And he's tweeting about, look at Richard Heart selling all of the Hex on these idiot plebs' heads for money, right? And it makes me laugh and also kind of feel bad that these people, when they see Richard with expensive clothing online or flexing his cars or his status or whatever, they'll just make up some conclusion off of zero research and make up some fan fiction narrative that helps them sleep at night so they can quickly dismiss Hex and the whole concept and be like, well, that's definitely a scam. When all you really would have to do is listen to even 1 hour of him live streaming, because he tells you all the time, he tells you verbatim what he's doing, dressing like a clown. It's all just to simply get attention. And furthermore, if you are in the camp that thinks Richard is doing this kind of behavior, all you have to do is look at the public, transparent, immutable blockchain and realize that not a single Hex from the origin address has ever been sold, ever, provably on an immutable blockchain. So, if you're going to make some claim or some made up fan fiction narrative like, oh, Richard is obviously scamming everybody, come up with some evidence. Don't just pull some random facts out of your ass and start spreading that like it's fact, right? So we're here to dispel some of the FUD. What's your take on Richard Heart and how he's behaving these days?
How's it going, man? I want to say thanks for having me on the show, number one. And hopefully the audio is coming through really well as well, mate. Yeah, I find it hilarious. Like, I find it quite funny that a lot of people think, wow, Richard's spending all of our money. We know how rich Richard was before even coming into crypto. We were talking in the green room, when your company's turning over 60 million a year, it's going to take you a lot of time to buy a lot of Prada bags to spend all of that 60 million, let alone if you put that 60 million into some sort of conservative investment assets such as like the S&P 500, which gives you returns of about 10% per year. So just put 1 and 2 together, guys. Like, he was in it. It makes me really laugh that these people forget that he mined Bitcoin blocks of 50 per week. Where did that money go? Where did the ETH go from the Hex sacrifice? I do find it funny where you look at the origin address. It's pretty easy to see on chain, and nothing's been sold from the OA. So all of this FUD is just make believe. It's kind of the stuff of boredom in the bear market. People just getting bored, thinking they're smarter than they actually are, and making up a bunch of narratives that are completely untrue. We can see on GitLab that there's progress on Pulse Chain. We can see that it's not the best bear market in the world. It's been a tough time. It's been crazy with SBF and with Celsius and BlockFi and Voyager, etc. But hey, you can make up the narrative you want to make. If that comforts you, if that makes you feel good at night, then feel free.
Yeah, it's wild to me out there. I see a lot of people fudding themselves out of something that they have no stake in the first place, right? You'll see people that have just called Hex a scam for their entire life, just making up, the new fan fiction narrative of the day. And it's funny. So what I'm hoping that my videos bring are some new attention and new eyeballs, because if you're one of these people that's doubting or making wild claims, accusations that are unfounded, you might feel a little triggered right now, and that's totally okay. I mean, you feel free to just close the video. Feel free to just not watch, and don't let it keep you up at night. But if you're somebody that's on the fence that might have heard about some of this FUD, and that's really just made up imaginary, fan fiction, like I said, you might have an open mind enough to really look at the facts objectively. And when you realize that this is a dude that was turning over 60 million a year for multiple years in the early 2000s, got rich off of internet businesses before he started mining full Bitcoin blocks in 2011. You realize that his net worth is probably in the, if I had to guess, I'd say 9-digit millions, right? He's probably got at least $100 million. Now, how much of that came from his previous, entrepreneurship versus how much came from Bitcoin? I don't know, but the guy's filthy rich. I mean, he's rolling in the dough. And there's really no question about that. He doesn't need to sell Hex, and he says it quite honest, quite verbatim. If you actually take the time to even listen to 5-minute clips of Richard Heart saying, guys, I'm doing this for the glory. I'm not doing Hex for the money. I'm doing it to try to help other people, achieve financial freedom and all that kind of stuff. And it's so hard for people to believe because, I think either, maybe they're projecting some of their own insecurities of not liking flashy displays of wealth, but it's objectively gotten him a larger audience, right? He's tripled his subscriber count across YouTube and Twitter in the bear market. I mean, he's gotten more followers than anybody else in the bear market. And on a purely numerical perspective, right? If half these people love you and half of them hate you, well, you might as well have half of a bigger pie than try to get more of the same size pie, right? So you might as well just punch out and punch up. And that, again, is kind of what I'm trying to do, right? I'm making a silly thumbnail, a silly question in the title, and I'm explaining it to you guys so you guys can see what's going on. It's a title that's obviously not true. It's a question prompt to drive an emotional reaction from you, the viewer. And you probably clicked on it, and that's why you're here. So congratulations, you made it this far. Now, if you're going to let that trigger you and get angry again, you can just you can leave anytime you want. No one's forcing you to be here, but I'm trying to explain what I think is obvious if people just do some higher level thinking, that there's no way in hell Richard would need to sell Hex, and it's provable that he has not sold Hex, in order to fund $10,000 outfits. I mean, think about how many 10 grand outfits it would take to even spend. Like, if you're a multimillionaire, it'd be hard to spend all that money if you tried. You know what I mean? If you're making more per day than, like if you're making a couple grand a day, like it's hard to spend that much money even if you try. So that's where we're at. I feel like. I mean, you probably agree with me, right?
100%. I mean, and it's working. That's the thing. It's working. You just got to look at the data. You just got to look at how many followers he's gone up by. Whether that be from Twitter, whether that be from YouTube subs, and he hasn't really been uploading that much on YouTube. Right. What he's been doing in the Twitter spaces as well. The amount of people that are starting to see videos of him.
There's 10,000 people in the space with BitBoy, and those are new people outside of the Hexagon community, right? And what better time to tell people not your keys, not your coins, than after this whole FTX fiasco, right? It's a great time to come out and say, kind of, I told you so, in a way, kind of tough love, right? Because you should have always been holding your own private keys. That's something I've always said on my channel. I know you always agree with that. A lot of us in the Hex community, we promote healthy crypto behavior, doing it the right way. right? Doing it, not your keys, not your coins, not giving over your money to a centralized exchange. And so, although I do feel bad for people that lost money, let this be a learning lesson for you guys. And it's funny, people can get so mad all day long. Even people in the Hex community, they can get so triggered by Richard Heart. But guess what, guys? You're still talking about it. He's got you talking. He made you look like, if you're the one getting triggered by it and complaining loudly, whether or not you like Hex or not, it's working. Like, can't you see that? Like, it's working on you, the one that is emotionally triggered. Like,
he's got a great effect with it. Jake Paul does something very well in the boxing community, and he's been able to do it on a bigger scale, on a world scale.
Yeah.
And it does work. Outrage marketing has worked, always will work, is going to work. Just take the last 2 years of the cough. That is like outrage marketing at its finest. So,
right.
So it works. It works whether we like it or not. It's just a lot of people come from more conservative background and they don't like the flash. They don't like that. But as Richard has said previously, he's tried the other approach and it hasn't worked. It hasn't been as effective.
It's like you donate $27 million to charity, you get one news article. Buy the world's largest diamond, you get 50 news articles. And so the world is not fair, right? And I realize a lot of people, even in the chat right now, complaining about Richard's outrage marketing. Guys, you're kind of screaming into the void, because it's going to happen whether you like it or not. But it's having the exact intended effect by the fact that you are talking and screaming about it. And yeah, this works for people like Donald Trump. I'm not saying that these are the same people at all, right? But Logan Paul, who else? It was a lot of people like Floyd Mayweather. There's people that act flashy on purpose to drive an emotional reaction. And it's just a fundamental psychological principle that works. The news media does it all the time. If it bleeds, it leads, right? So these are tactics that work.
Andrew Tate, Piers Morgan, a lot of the stuff that they put out there is designed to just spike your emotions and get you talking.
Right.
And I don't, like you said, it's.
Let me just say, I don't find it cool. I'm not ever going to be the type. I don't even care about, Rolexes or whatever. If I had the money, I probably wouldn't even buy a Rolex, because I'm just not that kind of person. And that's okay. But I'm looking at somebody like a Richard Heart, for example, and I know, I'm observing, I'm able to think about the effect that he wants and why he's doing what he's doing. And it keeps me from just angrily shaking my fist at the sky, because that's not going to get you anywhere, right? So different strokes for different folks. And if you really don't like it, if you're very allergic to displays of wealth and peacocking and things like that, number one, just try to have some fun with it all, right? Let's just realize, we shouldn't all be taking ourselves too seriously or taking ourselves too righteously, or, virtue signaling by, Sam Bankman-Fried did the opposite, right? He did his virtue signaling by trying to say, oh, I bought a Honda. Look at me. I'm a, frugal guy. I want to give all my money to charity. What does he do? He defrauds customers $10 billion. So we live in backwards land. We live in clown world, where the heroes are the villains and the villains are the heroes. And it's just hilarious to me to see this unfolding in real time. I've said this earlier, but this is better than any Netflix documentary I've ever seen. And I'm watching it unfold by a guy named Autist Capital on fucking Twitter. It's who would have thought? Who would have thought?
I love it. SBF is the epitome of, and I'm just going to say, he's a bit of a soy boy. And the guy can't even look at people in the eyes when he's stolen all of their money. And he has to have his head down. He has to act like he's a child that's been disciplined. Yeah, the shakes,
it was looking like
around.
Spanked. It's they're treating him like he's a child. He's a 30-year-old man. He's my age. He's a full-grown adult, and he should be able to take responsibility for his actions. But what do? Because his mommy and daddy are still connected with the government. They basically just said, hey, go sit in the corner with the dunce cap on. We're going to make you look bad, but we're going to try to make people, we're going to try to get away with an apology, right? But saying you're sorry about your oversights is not going to bring people's life savings back. It's not going to bring people's lives back that have actually committed suicide from this whole fiasco, right?
Yeah.
So it really is backwards, man. A lot of the stuff that you think is good is actually bad. A lot of the stuff you think is bad is actually good. We're only able to recognize this, I think, people like us, because we're so deeply ingrained in the crypto sphere. But they're lying to us about this. It's just, I feel like the floodgates are open and the perfect timing. It's such a climax with Twitter, and Elon Musk buying Twitter, because now that Twitter truly is a free speech platform, it's just like the crescendo of everybody all coming to terms with at once the realization that it was all just a fugazi. It was all just puppets pulling the strings. And, some people have known that all along, but guys, I guess the learning, what can we learn from this, right? Don't judge a book by its cover and try to think a little bit critically under the surface, right? If mainstream news articles, even in crypto, for example, if every news article, media in crypto, every publication, and the standards for writing those, by the way, are non-existent, right? Anybody can just write for Cointelegraph. You don't have to be like an actual journalist. But if you Google Hex and you see negative on Richard Heart, negative on Richard Heart, negative on Richard Heart, shouldn't that make you think why? Like why is this so-called scam been running successfully for 3 years with 100% uptime? Why are so many people still so excited about it and still doing so well from it? Like, don't just take it at face value. When we say do your own research, your research is not just a Google search. And, 9 out of 10 articles were negative. That's my opinion now. All I read was the headline, and that's my opinion, right? So,
well, we're still alive in the bear market. That's all I need to say. All these centralized safe forms of crypto investing, Celsius, Voyager, even FTX now, and they're all wrecked, and we're still us plebs are still going. Okay.
Yeah, we're getting scammed over here. We're getting scammed into financial freedom, scammed into prosperity. So yeah, it's mad, and it's even grown more right now that we've got like Hedron, Icosa, we've got derivatives around it as well from the guys from the Maximus DAO. It's growing, and even the other day, right? Like OX Steph had announced that on the Staker app, the average stake length now is 11 years on the Staker app. So the length of time is growing. People are seeing more of Richard. I'm seeing like trading memes, and they're using Richard's videos from ironically from his shopping sprees. Yeah. And so the word's getting out. He's growing in a bear market. Every time I post stuff, like I'm growing and growing and growing. I'm sure it's the same for you as well. Yeah. Our channels are blowing up, and the social metrics, the analytics cannot lie. Like, more people are watching. And again, if you get 500 new people to watch and 250 of them hate you, 250 of them love you, it's better than getting 10 new subscribers, right? And just that's just how the numbers work, right? And we live in an emotional world, and so I think that's what we're all just trying to navigate right now as a community, as a collective. It's hard when you realize that everything you were taught is kind of a lie, right? You've got the trustworthy people who are all sponsored by FTX and telling you to give up your private keys, and meanwhile, the so-called scam has been running fine, and it's actual real DeFi. Hex was supposed to be the scam, and it's the only coin where people are incentivized to actually hold their own private keys. Well, I shouldn't say the only. There's plenty of other real DeFi things out there too, but we're the ones advertising and advocating for real DeFi. We're just doing it as a labor of love too. People like to also make up these fan fiction narratives of, oh, we must be getting paid. Richard Heart must be paying us. I fucking wish Richard Heart was paying me. He doesn't pay anybody. That guy's cheap. Richard Heart is actually a cheap ass. Fact.
He is very cheap.
You hear the story about a certain guy who took Richard went out to lunch with, and it was Hexologist.
No, go on.
So Hexologist Richard, and Richard basically made Hexo foot the bill. So it's like
I heard something similar with, it may have happened with someone else in the community as well. So yeah.
I think that story is but it's just,
and he also sorry to interrupt that. He also bought his Ferrari, the one that was only for the pure reason of there was a documentary film going on and he needed to get a supercar.
Yep.
Like, he did it whilst he was on tour.
Yeah.
It tells me enough.
Yeah. And for a guy with 8-9 figures in the bank, guys, what do you think a Ferrari is? That's what, like 5-6 Bitcoin? You know what I mean? For a guy that's probably got, I would guess he has thousands of Bitcoin, Yeah. If you mine full Bitcoin blocks in 2011, like I'm having a hard time seeing why anybody that hasn't done more or less than more than maybe an hour of research, how could you just not see what's going on here? I mean, they even talk about there's the concept of the Heyoka, right? The sacred clown. Have you heard about that?
No, I haven't.
So the Heyoka, right? It's like a Native American concept. It's also known as the sacred clown. I heard about this on a Rogan podcast, but basically it's the Great Plains Indians of North America would occasionally send their shaman to kind of dress as this character who was a contrarian, a jester. They spoke in, the opposite terms of whatever was kind of acceptable at the time. And they would kind of taunt people and try to get a reaction out of people, because the idea was like, if you can't laugh, if you're taking yourself too seriously and you can't be made fun of a little bit, then, you're doing something wrong. You got to cut your ego down a little bit. And so I almost think that's kind of what Richard is kind of waking people up with here. It's like, people love to just point fingers and say $11,000 outfit, fat man bad. And then it's really easy to say that. But then you listen to him talking, he's like, guys, I don't actually like dressing like a clown, but I have double the followers that I did last year. And so dressing like a clown is working for me. I'm like, okay, fair enough. And like, you could say that you would act different in that situation, but then why don't you? Why don't you get to that level of status? Why don't you do that? And by the way, guys, outrage marketing only works if you're somebody worth being outraged about. You know what I mean? Like some nobody with 1,000 followers starts doing outrage marketing. Nobody cares. I don't think people realize that Richard spent like a good 4 or 5 years building an actual reputation by just live streaming about mostly Bitcoin back in the day. I don't know. Did you remember watching him in 2017, 2018?
Yeah. I remember. And also the hate was so strong then as well. Like more so actually, even the propositions of what is known as now Hex. Like people would tear him up in the comments section. Like if you just go back and watch an old live stream, you just see it, and people are just talking about, oh, you're fat, you're this, you're a scammer. And it's like, well, okay. I think it's easy for Richard now. He hears it, he deals with it, but he's been proven right time and time and again, even in this bear market with all of the things that have dropped off. We go back on some of the clips. It's almost prophetic in a way. Now, is there character flaws? Everyone's got character flaws, of course. Some people, you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to fit everyone's mold. But the point of the matter is what is he is doing effective? Is it changing people's views of him in the crypto space and in the greater space? I think so. I think it's really net positive, not net negative.
Yeah. And then there's always a certain subset of people that you just can't please them no matter what, and you got to move on. It's like you can't waste time onboarding somebody that already has decided in their mind that either crypto is a scam or Hex is a scam, or they just don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Like, it's not worth it, guys. There's 8 billion people in the world. Punch outwards. Don't just try to keep going for the same circle of people, half of which have already made up their mind. Right? A lot of these Bitcoin maximalists too, they've made up their mind. Their mind will not be changed. You are far better off trying to go for these pockets of new people to onboard into your idea system, which is really in line with the ideals of crypto in general, right? It's not your keys, not your coins. Like, we're really not reinventing the wheel here. We're just making a store of value that pays you to hold it. Trustless yield is the innovation. And it's very, very simple, right? It's like, imagine if Bitcoin just paid you yield, and without having to give over your Bitcoin to, BlockFi, where then they file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. But hey, at least Peter McCormick got a Lambo out of it, right?
He's done well for himself.
Man, that guy. Don't get me started. But yeah, guys. Yeah, see, we've got some. I don't know if this guy's trolling in the chat. RH is a fraud. It's all going to zero. Yeah. That's
pretty typical.
That's definitely a troll, right? But that's the reaction, guys. And you're still here. You're still watching. You're still talking about Hex, because Hex is the most interesting thing going on in the bear market. Pulse chain right around the corner. I'm starting to get the feeling that V3 could be like any day now, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I have a feeling that he might release it before Christmas, but that's my hope. The way I see it, maybe with V3, is that once that gets released, essentially a bit of testing. Is Pulse Chain going to be released pretty much straight after that? Like maybe a little bit of testing and that's about it. But there may be a few changes, a few bugs here and there, but I think that is pretty much the final product in beta.
Well, look, because he must be running his own testnet behind the scenes right now, right? Without a doubt, they've already forked ETH 2.0. They're already testing it among themselves, the developer community. But for those that don't know, when we talk about V3, we're talking about the final Pulse Chain testnet version before we go to mainnet. And the reason that we have to do that is because of the shift from the fork of Binance Smart Chain to Ethereum 2.0. So I imagine they're testing everything under the radar, under the hood right now. But man, you bet your ass when that thing goes out, oh my God, Hex is going to pump. The whole space is going to be reinvigorated, and that'll probably lead us into what I'm hoping is maybe a Q2 launch, like March, April launch. I think he's just waiting for that capitulation bottom, dude. I think he's just waiting for Grayscale to crumble or whatever. Everyone's always talking about the next domino to fall, right? Because that became trendy after FTX, right? It's like FTX falls and like CZ tweets and blows up Sam Bankman-Fried. It was kind of hilarious. But then everything connected to it is starting to fall, like Gemini, right? Gemini Lending or Genesis or, Digital Currency Group. All these things that might be kind of tangential and it might have had a lot of stake in FTX are also failing. And people are showing their true colors. So people are speculating, oh, maybe Crypto.com is next, or maybe it's, what do you think it is?
I would tell, so I used to have a bit of, I've got Coinbase and Crypto.com apps as well. I don't use Gemini so much, but I think one of those big ones is going to crumble at some point. And people do forget that Crypto.com is a heavy sponsor of the World Cup. I wonder how much money they've spent on advertising. You think about the arenas they've footed as well.
Yep.
I hate to say it because I do like using Crypto.com, but I do have a funny feeling that they could be next, and that could be the domino that has that ripple effect. It could be one of those things where we do see that real bottom, because I feel like the aftermath of what's happened with FTX we haven't seen the full extent of it. We've seen the beginnings of it, but we haven't seen the full extent of it, and only time will tell.
Yeah. I think the FTX people, they're kind of scrambling behind the scenes to see how much of this money can we actually potentially return to customers. And once the actual losses are realized, and a lot of VCs already wrote off FTX as a loss, probably for tax purposes, one, right? I mean, it's already December. But number two, like nobody's sure, right? It could be, they could get their money back 5 years later, like Mt. Gox, right? Mt. Gox took more like 7 or 8 years to finally redistribute people's funds. But yeah, I mean, Crypto.com is a contender for the next domino, and that I will say they did have that sketchy transaction where they accidentally transferred, a couple $1 million worth of ETH to a Gate.io wallet. Gate.io is another exchange. They said, oops, yeah, that was a mistake. Nothing to see here, folks. But what was really happening, I think, is that what all these exchanges kind of do is when they have to show proof of reserves, right? And this was a shock to the system, this FTX thing. So everybody's now talking about proof of reserves and having to, and all that really is a snapshot in time of blockchain data showing that you own these coins at this time, right? But what Crypto.com is probably doing with Gate is like, if I had to guess, Gate hits up Crypto.com and they're like, hey, bro, we want to do proof of reserves. Can we have some of your reserves for like 5 minutes? We'll give them right back. And we just got to, put them over here, take the snapshot, give them right back. And then, people caught onto it. And all of a sudden, the Crypto.com founder said, oh, yeah, that was just a mistake. It's like, okay, don't really believe that, but you might still be solvent. I mean, it might just be shenanigans. You might still be okay. I'm leaning towards Grayscale Bitcoin potentially imploding because the premium just keeps dipping, man. It's like negative 45%.
Yeah, I saw it the other day, and it's pretty crazy, the discount on it. And that makes me think, wow, how much further can it go down, number one? And number two, at what point does it collapse, right? The house of cards collapse. At what point does, we see that have a real effect on the market? And that's hard to tell. And on top of that, I do believe that the Fed will continue to increase interest rates. So I think that will also have an effect on the general market as well. So we're going to see a bit more pain, I think, really up until the end of this year, maybe even the beginnings of next year.
Well, Jerome Powell did signal that he might not be raising them as much as 75 basis points again. But literally, we're just speculating about what one guy decides to do at the end of the day, or one group of people that group of people that you didn't elect that just have a bunch of PhDs that claim that they know. Nobody knows what to do in that job. I'm not going to pretend I would know what to do, but like that is a job that is not like, it's not knowable. Like there's no right answer to being the Federal Reserve. Like you can't just, and all they have to change is one number, right? They have one little number, the federal funds rate, that they can kind of control. But then they also have to play with, oh, well, what are people expecting is going to happen? And when we change one thing, if it's different than what they expect, there's going to be a reaction in the stock market. There's so many ripple effects on this tiny little decision that they have to make, and so many different models and factors that go into it. It's an absurd job for anybody. So, I mean, yeah, we could see them slow up. We could see a 50 basis points move instead of 75, and then that would probably launch the markets into the green for Christmas. We might get some nice green dildos for Christmas, but we might not. We're just guessing. Like we're all just guessing.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me.
It's really hard to predict. It really is hard to predict. I mean, I was quite surprised when they did increase interest rates just before elections, right? Before the midterms. But that's the extent of how crazy this inflation has been, and how negative it's been really for this year. So if we see those green dildos go up, then don't rely on it too much.
Yeah.
Just know that there could be more pain coming.
Well, here, check this out. I've got a little bit of insider alpha for you guys. So this is actually a fact. You can look this up. It's on the internet right now. If you go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS.gov, they're going to tell you that in 2023, they're changing the way that the CPI data is calculated. So right now, the consumer price index, it's a measure of inflation. And what the Fed wants is they want the federal funds rate to be above the CPI level before they start lowering the federal funds rate again. And right now, if I'm correct on this, I might be wrong, but CPI is about 7.6, 7.7. And I mean, the reported CPI, real inflation is obviously much higher. Federal funds rate, I think, is about 4 to 5% right now. So I think maybe they'll meet in the middle around 6%. But in 2023, they're changing the way the CPI is calculated, meaning they're only, instead of averaging it over the previous 2 years, they're only going to be averaging it over the previous year. And so it's going to make the numbers look a lot lower because they're using data. They're not using any of that data from that hyperinflationary year back in 2021. They're only going to be using 2022 data. And it's going to make the CPI numbers look a lot softer. And so we could have like a total fake out pump all throughout, Q1 perhaps of 2023. Which it wouldn't necessarily be like, it might be a really compelling case for people to say, oh shit, the bull market's back. But, just realize that this is all it's all built on imaginary numbers that we just decide on a whim how to calculate. And, we could start printing money again next year around, January, February, we could start printing money, and then that could dig us into an even deeper hole. And at some point, are they going to run out of metrics to manipulate? I don't know. It's a crazy world out there.
I got a question for you. Do you think they completely ruin the financial system and then just move it all to digital CBDCs? Like that's my theory. That's what I think they're going to do, is just completely destroy the current financial system and just switch it across for control mechanism purposes.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? Ray Dalio had that video he put out about the life cycle of a currency, right? The average life cycle of a nation's universal reserve currency is about 150 years. And so it shows like the time lapse, and the US dollar is on its way out in terms of its, typical life cycle. It doesn't mean, that it can't last longer, but we are kind of on the tail end of a 150-year cycle for the US dollar being the global reserve currency. But crypto is kind of a nice, people call it the biggest wealth transfer in human history for a reason, right? It's like the opt-out plan, because we're decentralizing power, not only in terms of money, but even like nation states now have far less power, because when you give the people the internet first, and then you give them internet money, the internet behaves as its own country. So you have all these little factions of, you might have the Richard Hart community over here, and then all the NFT guys over here, and all the GameFi guys over here. But they're all happy to trade along with each other in their own little micro worlds, right? Because that's real to them. And we pretty much live online now, right? We, one day in 5 or 10 years, we'll just be talking in the metaverse and all that shit, which is, don't get me started on that. But this is a way for us to kind of it's a quiet revolution, right? It's like the world is crumbling, but we have this quiet way that the people in the know right now are taking the way out into the crypto world. And yeah, the government might try to pull some kind of trick of like, hey guys, you should all cash in your bank currency for the CBDC. We'll give you a 10% bonus or something, right? Like we'll give you $1.1 for every fiat dollar you give to us. And then all the plebs, you know, all the mainstream guys will be like, oh yeah, that's a great deal, you know. And they're all the normies, right? But us over here, we're educating ourselves about literal parallel financial systems that work just fine. So I'm a little bit of an optimist there because I think you're right, but I also think that you need to be in the place where people are innovating faster than regulations are coming.
Yeah. Yeah, I see it happening, particularly in my nation state. I'm from the UK, and like we just have a brand new prime minister who is very bullish on CBDCs. He's a big proponent of what we call Bitcoin. We've also seen 25% of all cash machines being taken out of the UK, like literally just disappear in the last like 2 years. And it's becoming harder and harder just in general jobs to find even old school kind of cash only jobs, even in construction, which is the field where you have most of the cash only jobs. So
that's what we need, man. We need all these white collar guys that are getting laid off. Like if these white collar guys working at tech companies just went into construction, I think that would fix everything. You know what I mean? Because we have so many open jobs, but they're just the dirty jobs that people don't want to do. People want to sit around at a desk all day with a suit and tie on and, you know, watch Netflix while they're logged into Slack, right? That's what I used to work.
Did you ever see the Did you ever see the a day in the life of a TikTok employee?
Yeah,
like a female on TikTok. and this is why like Elon's come in. He's got rid of like a quarter, maybe a half of the staff. He's been like, yeah, you're out, and made it more efficient, right? Like it's just it's crazy.
I mean, yeah, we need all these people to put on a hard hat and start building updated railway systems in the US. Like why am I driving on a train that's from 1940? Like I should have the Japanese bullet train at my disposal, but nobody I think people are just getting lazy. You know, they say like the soft times create lazy people or whatever. Hard times create strong men create soft times, easy times create soft men. You get it. I mean, that's where we're at. And hey, maybe I'm one of them too, because I'm just a crypto guy. You know, I'm not like building any. I'm not out there on the streets putting brick and mortar together.
Well, if you've got SBF as a representative of he was called the Michael Jordan of crypto, right? Like people were saying he's the Michael Jordan, the softest looking soy boy I've ever seen. Who's the Michael Jordan of crypto? It's an absolute insult to Michael Jordan, by the way. Absolute insult. And this is who they advertised as the Michael Jordan of crypto. And even when I watched that, the most cringiest one is the Nas Daily documentary on him. It's like, this is the most generous billionaire in the world. And he rides around in a Toyota Corolla, and I'm like,
he drives a Corolla, guys. But then he bought all of his friends and family like $200 million worth of property in, you know, the nicest part of the Bahamas. I mean, do you know Albany is like the richest part of the Bahamas too? Like, Big Boy Crypto was over there. How great is it that Big Boy Crypto basically turned into Dog the Bounty Hunter throughout all this?
He did, yeah. I used to love Dog the Bounty Hunter as well. Great piece of American television. What a guy. His wife with the massive tits, but yeah, no, he did turn into Dog the Bounty. It was quite entertaining. Shout out to Big Boy, you know, going over there and stuff. But yeah, I think there's a lot of money tied up there. I think there's a lot of money hidden away. The fact that he was just given so much to his girlfriend, who he was sharing with the rest of the team, is it just tells you what you need to know.
Oh yeah, I saw pictures of those pool parties, man. You remember those? Did you see any of those pictures?
I haven't seen those, but I've heard there's a tape somewhere.
So I think the tape ended up being like a virus, of course.
Right.
But if there is a sex tape, I don't want to see it, guys. I'm good.
Nah, 100%.
Respectfully decline. Just to show you guys a funny video though. Here, I'm gonna pull up Twitter right now. This is Ben Armstrong. He actually did a dog or the bounty hunter type of thing. Hold on. Stop. Let me share my sound with it too. It's kind of funny.
Mute myself for a sec.
Yeah, so he's over in the Bahamas right now. He's doing this.
That's fantastic.
You know, BitBoy's really grown on me over the years, man. It used to be kind of fun to hate on him, but he's one of us. You know, he's doing crypto for the right reasons, and he's having fun with it. And you know, you could say, oh, he used to promote FTX. Yeah, but he actually apologized. Like him and Meet Kevin, the only two guys I've ever seen out of this whole deal that actually apologized and said, yep, I fucked up. I shouldn't have promoted FTX. Here's what I'm going to do to try to fix it, you know? And those are the only two guys with any integrity that I've seen. A lot of these guys, I mean, I don't want to call out anybody, but there's so many podcasts out there that had a little sponsored by FTX in the lower right corner. And, you know, when it happened, they're just, oh, how could anybody have possibly seen this coming, you know? And it's like a pity party for them. It's like, bro, you guys need to say sorry. that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
It's
even as someone as conservative as Graham Stephan, you know, and he was promoting as well. FTX, it's like it's very frustrating. And guy from Kevin O'Leary, man. I mean, the guy's saying that he's lost a lot of money, and then BitBoy's going back and forth with him. There seems to be more to the story than what he puts on.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's on a show called Shark Tank. I don't know if you've seen it. It's an American.
Yeah, like the Dragon's Den equivalent.
Yes, same thing. And they did some kind of interview with him where they basically asked him, "Hey, so would you trust Sam Bankman-Fried again?" And Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, he said, "Yeah, of course, I would trust him again. Yeah, he's just a kid. He just made a mistake." It's like, all right, bro, how much did they pay you to say that? Like, I want to know how much they paid that guy and a couple of other guys who seem just weirdly apologetic to Sam Bankman-Fried, you know, and these are high-level rich dudes that you'd think they had lost their money too, but for some reason, I mean, they've got media connections. Mr. Wonderful, allegedly, him and his wife accidentally killed one of their friends in a boating accident a couple of years ago. There's some dirt on that. I mean, the more you dig up, it's like all these rich people are assholes, and they're just they're all in cahoots with each other. It's like, to say that you'd give Sam Bankman-Fried another chance, you know, it's like, where's the gun? Like, there's probably like a gun to his head just outside of the frame. You know what I mean? Like, don't squeal on us, right?
The whole thing makes me again gives me creepy vibes. Even other stuff outside of crypto as well, like Balenciaga Gate. Everything that's been going on with that, you know, we can talk. We can go on to that, and it's just it gives me some real spooky, creepy vibes, man. Like I'm not gonna lie. And then we can also talk about what was the developer who passed away unfortunately in Puerto Rico. I don't know if we should touch on this in this podcast, but
look,
you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, look, I'm a big proponent of free speech, so why the hell not? Yeah, some guy, the creator of MakerDAO, allegedly got mixed up with the wrong people and came across allegedly some kind of pedo ring and mysteriously washed away in a riptide the next day. You can believe that if you want, or you know, you could be a little paranoid about it. man, it's just the times we're living in. Like, no one's ever had this level of access to information. 50 years ago, we would just read a newspaper and be like, oh, that's the truth. Okay, let me get on with my day, And now there's just so much input. It's so hard to sift through what's real these days.
Yeah. Hunter Biden, I've seen some stuff in the chat. Hunter Biden, by the way, great bit of viewing if you get a chance. Him smoking crack and meeting prostitutes. Yeah, it's
You
like,
got a link?
I can probably find one, but yeah, I did have a little watch of it. One of the most insane videos I've seen. I think it might have been on Telegram that I received it, so I'll chuck it across at some point.
Yeah.
Probably not good for the algorithm, but
a little crack between friends,
Yeah. Just the madness. Like a lot of people in very powerful positions are able to get away with this, right? And we see this with what's happened with Epstein and the island and everything that's happened again, right? Where's the list? Where's the list of people? Where's the follow up to that? And real justice is not occurring. It's not happening. It's pretty scary actually. It gets a little bit funky,
Yeah. We're living in these times where it feels like society is collapsing all around us, but that's only because of the exposure. Like, everything's being exposed. In a way, to say it's glass half full is like, well, at least now, you can't fool the people anymore. And to a certain degree, like, there's gonna be a tipping point where eventually the people aren't going to put up with what they're being fed. I mean, podcasting has become the new radio show, and now everyone's got their own radio show. So everyone's got their mini empire, and we really are decentralizing the world. Not only the money, but the social influence as well. Everyone's got their own little tribe, it seems, but it's a lot harder to get away with murder nowadays. You know what I mean? So, yeah, guys. I mean, what have we not covered yet? SEC. That's right. Do you want to touch on the SEC situation and give the people what you think?
Yeah, and I said this on a podcast the other day, but we're in the big leagues, guys. This is, did you not expect it to happen at some point? Did you not expect the SEC to come after some people? It is what it is.
Somebody clipped that out of you, and I totally agree. It was a pretty good clip because it's like, guys, it's almost a measure of success, right? Because it's going to happen sooner or later when you get to a certain level, like, Ripple and all that stuff. Like, they get questioned because they're a legitimate contender for the king position. But what's happening right now, it's really nothing worth worrying about in my eyes. And I'll tell you why, guys. It's not even a case. It's an investigation that I would assume is loosely related to a frivolous complaint filed in South Dakota that we saw a couple of months ago. Some guy lost half an ETH, right? Something like $2,000 because he bought high and sold low. He could have done that on any coin, by the way, but then decided to file a complaint, it seems, against Hex in general. But because Hex is not a company, there's nothing to go after. I think the SEC, and part of them doing their due diligence, which is fine, they're doing their job, right? Part of that is just, it seems that they picked a random selection of influencers, like 8 to 10 from what I hear, and they're just questioning, hey, did Richard Heart pay you to do any of this? And first of all, a response isn't necessarily necessary. I think lawyers are going to handle responding to most of these investigations. But even if there's nothing to even show, because there's no record of Richard paying anybody because he doesn't pay people. So yes, it's going to blow over in my eyes, but I mean, I think it's tied to that original complaint. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think so. And I think maybe some wolves in sheep's clothing within the community. There's some people that have maybe a little bit butthurt, a little bit trying to make a name for themselves, maybe. That was the other thing. Part of my thoughts was a few people that may have changed their logos, their branding recently, that still seem to be shilling crypto, but they're not necessarily shilling Hex. I find that interesting. If someone's doing that, there might be something behind that. But then, again, that's me going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I'm making accusations here when I shouldn't, but
there's always going to be snakes in the grass, and that's why I'm a big proponent. I say quality over quantity. That's not just in terms of what projects that you pick on the blockchain. It's in everything. It's what projects are you building, but also what kind of people are you onboarding. You don't just want to get any Joe Schmo off the street, because if they're a little bit, maybe they've got some personal issues they haven't worked really through yet, they might be more trouble than they're worth at the end of the day. And so, but look, it was bound to happen either way. And I think that there's two separate things going on too that people have to realize. Like, it might be kind of chaotic, especially if you haven't been tuned into Twitter, which God bless you, you're probably doing great if you haven't been watching Twitter lately, because you're probably happy and life is good. But there's two separate things going on. There's an investigation that's going to go nowhere from like 8 to 10 influencers that, from what I gather, the SEC only wants to know, is Richard Heart paying you guys to try to build up for evidence for a case, which they'll never be able to have because the evidence doesn't exist. That's one thing that, in my opinion, will blow over in time, right? It's just, you got to give it time. Once they find nothing, everything will be fine. But then there's also the Discourse Syndicate, who decided to basically form a legal defense team to get a declarative statement from the SEC that Hex is not a security. And those are two totally separate, unrelated things. And I think a lot of people are now unsure about this Discourse Syndicate thing. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I viewed a little bit of it because Kinetics had put something up and they were raising some money to get, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, a declarative statement from the SEC. But I don't know the full extent of it, so I can't really speak on something that I don't know too much about. But it did seem a little bit strange, and I'm going to put it out there. There's a lot of guys that were a little bit kind of pissed off, really, because Hex influencers asking the community for money during legal fees. I can understand both sides, right? I can understand why people were asking because of lawyer fees, and this is much bigger than it's 8 to 10 people, so it's a group funding project. It's not just an individual funding project, but at the same time, it can come across quite difficult. I know a lot of people were a little bit peed off about it.
Yes,
I think the timing of it is a little bit annoying as well, because blockchain hasn't launched just yet, so it's another thing to be negative about. And then you put on top of that, the bear market. The bear market is at, we're near the lowest of lows. So
right, I get it. I get that it's a lot different to ask for money at the bottom of a bear market when everyone's hurting. And for the most part, guys, if you can't afford to donate, or if it's not a cause that you're even interested in, then ignore it and move on, right? I mean, like the classic motto of, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say it at all. Now, it's a different story whether or not you think this is a good idea in general. But the donation thing is like, if you don't want to donate, don't donate, guys. I mean, I don't think they were ever asking people, especially people that are newer to crypto that might not have the funds, to part with. They're not talking to you. Yeah. They're talking to the people that have already, quote unquote, made it in crypto. But it's a lot different to raise, $600,000 for a NASCAR at the top of the bull market versus that same $600,000 for, legal defense team, or legal, I should say legal attack team, because they're being proactive, right? They're being proactive. They just want a definitive statement, from what I understand, that Hex is not a security. And part of why I'm confident that it's probably actually going to work, I would say it's more likely than not going to work, because the SEC has already allowed the Hex Investment Trust to operate in a similar manner that to Grayscale, GBTC. Mm-hmm. So they've already had SEC approval and sign off that Hex is essentially not a security, because they wouldn't have signed off on it otherwise. And so that business that Discourse Syndicate, some of them are operating, is legit in the eyes of the SEC. So you've got that going for them. But then you've also got, the failure of the Howey test, the likeness of kind test, and the Hinman standard. These are all things that can be very argued in favor of Hex. And once you realize that there's all of these, it's almost like for a good lawyer, it'd be like a surefire win in a legal case, from what I understand. But there's always the risk of, I think another reason people are scared, it's not only because being asked for money, it's, hey, what if this backfires? What if this doesn't work? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I'd almost get, there's a couple of different outcomes, right? They can't really stop Hex. in the worst case scenario, just try to imagine the absolute worst case scenario. You can't shut off immutable code on a blockchain. I really highly doubt you'd want to like do something where you refund people's money or anything like that. The worst case scenario to me would be somebody pays a fine and business as usual, right? I mean, Hex isn't primarily traded on centralized exchanges anywhere. Being a security would hinder its ability to be on US-based centralized exchanges, but not worldwide centralized exchanges. I mean, Hex is already on Poloniex, right? It's a very big exchange based in Europe. And it can be listed like the SEC really only has USA jurisdiction, but because a lot of us are in the USA, that's our world. A lot of times we don't think about what life is like across the pond over there. But I mean, you guys are lucky, right? You've got no 3-letter agencies breathing down your neck. So I understand why people are a little scared. But I mean, if I was a gambling man, which I suppose I am, I'm in crypto, I would say like 90% certainty that whatever the Discourse Syndicate is planning is probably going to end up in that positive. It's probably going to end up with a positive result, right? I don't think they'd be doing it if they weren't extremely confident that they had every leg to stand on to defend, Hex as a concept to the SEC and just get that declarative statement to be like, hey guys, can you just go ahead and say that we're not a security, so we don't have to go through this over and over again for years and years. So yeah, I'm optimistic, right? But go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know any cryptocurrency that talks more about this like form of legislation before this. Richard talked about how he tests so many times, and he talks about so many different factors of what Hex is, what Hex isn't, differences of that, in stream after stream after stream after stream after stream. If you're a lawyer, it's your research is done. You don't need to do much, right? And so, like you said, it is code. It's a immutable code that we interact with, and if we go down the worst case scenario, and even with Pulse Chain, right? Because I want to touch on this for a second. Is that a lot of people said, well, what happens if, and they play these fantasy scenarios, right? Like, oh, Richard passed away, and there's no one to do Pulse Chain anymore. Well, the community will build it, right? If we have very talented developers already. Guys like Alex, guys like Tanto, guys, multiple different developers. Carl's another one that comes to mind as well. This is a vision. This is an idea. This is something that we as a community believe in, and we want to create. We want to put it out there because there are some fundamental issues with Ethereum. There's fundamental issues with other major ecosystems that we're not happy with at the moment. So we want to create Pulse Chain as a vision and an idea, and we will accomplish it. It's not Richard is the leader as per se, but it's not. It's the vision that he's given to us that we want to push forward. It's the whole idea behind it that we want to create and achieve. And so I think that a lot of people are doubting the community's ability to get that done.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are probably doubting themselves as well, because guys, anybody watching right now, if you're in Hex, you are the network, and you can take as involved of a role as you want to, or not. You don't have to be involved, but if you want to, you actually have a lot more power than you think. And you've got people like, staff that have really stepped up to the plate to build, what I think is going to be one of the best onboarding apps when Staker App V2 comes out. You've got all kinds of people, myself, yourself, 100 other YouTubers that are, driving, banging the drum, driving the narrative home. More and more apps being built every day around the ecosystem. You've got Hedron, you've got brilliant guys like Alex and Dipcatcher that have made Maxi and some of these other apps in the ecosystem. You've got Pulse Chain, where hundreds of developers are out there right now designing their apps for when Pulse Chain launches. In my mind, like the snowball is already so far down the hill that it can't be stopped, right? There's going to be an avalanche eventually, and it's going to be really great. Richard's not as necessary as I think people think. He's not some puppet mastermind pulling all the strings. To me, he's just like a very loud and obnoxious cheerleader. Like that's all he is. He's just the loudest voice in the room with the sparkliest clothes on, and that's it. And he's just out there having a good time, trying to get the word out. Filming a documentary. It's all just people. It's a grassroots organic movement that is not a company. We don't have to pay a building full of people. We don't have to pay $400 for employee lunches. Like, we're not Twitter, right?
Yeah.
people don't realize, because it breaks everyone's paradigm. They're like, wait, how can you guys be so organized and powerful, but not? Hex is like a case study for a decentralized kind of company almost. I mean, it's not a company at all, but it's like nothing I've ever seen before. And you're gonna have your growing pains, right? Like we talked about earlier, like not everybody is gonna be a good fit, right? Some people are gonna end up being detractors, but we just got to keep pushing forward with that vision of real DeFi, right? And maybe we can even set the standard, right? Maybe Hex becomes, if we win this SEC case and all that, or not case. Pardon me, I'm not a lawyer, guys. So don't take what I say verbatim. I gotta watch my words and all that. If we get some declarative statement for the SEC, this might pave the way for other real DeFi products to go ahead and operate as real DeFi, like they should be. I mean, it was a real shame what happened with Tornado Cash, right? That's a dangerous precedent. And we're trying to go in the other direction. Say, hey, guys, I mean, we're not doing anything illegal. It's simply a decentralized protocol that you run or not. So let us live, let us operate without any, without the heavy hand of regulation stifling it. And I just think that could be a win for all of crypto in the right direction.
100%. I think we've got the community to make that happen. I don't think that we're just gonna, from what I know of XRP and Ripple, they were like, oh yeah, we are a security. We're not a security. That's not what we're trying to propose. We're trying to propose we're not a security. This is why. This is how we do. How we want DeFi to move forward. We're very much about DeFi. We're very much about the principles that Richard has put to us: not your keys, not your coins, no middlemen, and making something that code that we interact with that we can use on a daily basis, on a yearly basis, that's going to benefit us in the long run.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Ed's got a good comment. It's also non-social media onboarding that's important. That's right, guys. So word of mouth is the most powerful advertising. In a way, what we're doing is word of mouth because people develop a parasocial relationship with us, right? They think we're like, I mean, I wish I could be friends with all you guys, but a lot of you guys, if I haven't met you in real life, you're an avatar to me. And it's great. I know you're a real human being. I love all of you. But what we're doing is kind of like just one step away from word of mouth, because I've actually met a lot of you guys. I'm here in San Diego for the Hex 3rd birthday party. I'm going to be partying with you guys all weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. But that word of mouth from people that know, like, and trust you is 10 times more powerful, 100 times more powerful than a banner ad. Nobody's clicking on your banner ad. Like, there's so much money in advertising that's wasted. Even naming an arena, FTX Arena, Crypto.com Arena, to me, that's an epic waste of money, especially if you're trying to do things scrappy like Hex does. If you're trying to do things organic and shoot from the hip, you don't have millions of dollars in government connections. Word of mouth is more important than anything else. So this guy's saying, I got my friends interested who never saw anything on Twitter or YouTube. Those guys are probably better off because at least they're not getting like flooded out of their own positions by random trolls or people that don't know what they're talking about.
And then not buying at the top when everyone wants to buy as well. This is not financial advice, just financial opinion, but this is probably the perfect time to buy when you're seeing this crazy dip, crazy FUD. We're in the bloodiest part of the bear market, or coming to the bloodiest part of the bear market. I mean, there's some great opportunities here, guys. Again, not financial advice, just opinion.
That's right. Got to wiggle the tie. In memory of the great Hexo. He'll be back, guys.
Yeah, where is he gone? Where is he? No, he's fine, guys. He's
why
still okay.
Why have you forsaken me, Hexo? Let's see.
Well, he was gonna finish streaming anyway, wasn't he? Like after a few hundred days. So someone's got to pick up the mantle and carry on. You guys can do this, right? Like that's another thing I want to say to the audience as well, right? If you want to stream, if you want to start creating stuff, if you want to talk about Hex or Pulse Chain or some of the community products, why not? Or even better as well, if you want to start creating stuff for Pulse Chain, start learning coding, start learning development. The skills of blockchain development is going to be much needed in the future. And this could be a career for you. This could be a complete game changer for you. Stop looking at it as just something that you've bought and you're waiting for the pump.
Right.
This could be something you can revolutionize and change the world and bring value to not just the ecosystem, but to the whole of DeFi as well. And this is the future, guys. Crypto is the future. Let's keep it 100. We're just going through bumps in the road, but this is the future.
He's right, guys. I mean, it's all what you make of it. Like, you can be as involved or not as you want to be, but try to change your sense of control. Like, don't let all this stuff happen to you. Be the change you want to see, right? That's Gandhi for you bros out there. But I don't know. Just you do have a lot more influence than you think you might. Just get off your ass and go do something, and don't say, "Oh, woe is me. All these but I'm so powerless," because you're actually not as powerless as you think, right? And yeah, Hexo leaving. Yeah, I get it. It's kind of a bummer, but think about it, man. This guy's got a baby on the way. He's got, the last thing he needs is some legal stress adding to his already busy life, and he's been streaming for 300 days in a row. The dude is just tired, man. He just give Hexo a break. You know what I mean? He just wants to, tap out for a minute, right?
Let him raise his kids, guys. Like, for us single degenerates, like, allow him to like have some time with his wife and his kids. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
No, you will not get to look after your family. How dare you? Like, no, come on, guys. He's got a life to live as well outside of this crazy world.
Yeah, he's not your dancing monkey. Although he kind of was. He was a great dancing monkey, and we'll miss him. But he'll be back, guys. He'll be back. So yeah, I understand how that can be a blow of confidence, right? And that's what Richard talks about, the chilling effect. Don't let the chilling effect get you down. I mean, just because somebody else decided to take a break, and that's all he did, right? He said verbatim on Twitter, "I'll be back." Like, he'll be back, guys. He's baby on the way, all that stuff. But the chilling effect is when people are too afraid to speak for fear that they might get, silenced. It's almost worse than censorship. It's the fear of being censored is stopping you in your tracks before you've even been censored. Like, go out with a fight, at least. Ask for forgiveness, not permission. Like, just have a little cojones, guys. Stick by your conviction. What do we got in the chat?
Agreed.
Lots of vodka in Finland. Oh, is that Finbear? Hey, how you doing, Finbear? So yeah, what's been going on with you lately on your
channel? It's good, man. Like, the plans are, I've got friends abroad at the moment, so the plans are, as of next year, I'm getting out of Europe for sure, getting out of the UK, and hopefully moving on to somewhere that's a little bit. Okay, I'm a little bit anti-West, so that's.
I don't blame you.
That's something that it's one of those things where I'm thinking of going more towards South America or the East, or maybe even Eastern Europe. But I've got a good group of friends that want to be doing the same thing. They have a similar viewpoint. They're building their own businesses and stuff like that. So just getting ready for that, getting ready. I'll be on the road a lot more. So I think I'll be meeting Hexicans and people from the community. Maybe I'll be in Panama. Maybe I'll stop off in Chicago. Maybe I'll stop off in San Diego or something like that, I'm sure, on the way. But that's the plan. Just been working a lot. Work a day job. Sorry, guys, not a multi-millionaire yet. Soon.
Why should we even listen to you then?
Say again?
So why should we even listen to you then?
Exactly. Yeah. I made a load of money from ETH and then reinvested this. So
good.
Don't listen to me. No financial advice.
Do you mind if I ask what your day job is, or is that like OPSEC?
Yeah. So it's quite interesting. I do security contracts and security personnel. So we've worked with quite a few high net worth clients doing close protection. That's pretty much all I'm going to touch on, because the legal side of things can get a bit funny. But yeah, so we do that as well as kind of security, normal day-to-day security contracts as well. So that can be a real mix-up of personalities, individuals, hanging around individuals who are maybe think they're bigger than they actually are. I really do find it funny when I see people who maybe they're like a B, C-list celebrity, and they're probably worth, I don't know, 6 figures, maybe a millionaire, if that, and they think they're the hot shit, and then I got Richard Hart following me on Twitter and other guys who are multi-millionaires, maybe even billionaires. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, you're not as hot as you think you are, but you just got clout. So
Damn.
those are the types of people that I've dealt with. For people referencing, you know, I've done close protection for Liverpool Football Club, for Bournemouth Football Club, a lot of football players, Love Island stars as well. If you follow TV programs in the UK, that's one of the big ones. So I can tell you how their personalities are, but
I can guess.
A lot of people.
I can guess. I mean, Love
Massive
Island.
ego.
I've seen Love Island actually. It's is that the one where the Alexa tells them what to do? Like there's like
Love Island, no, but I know which one you're talking about. That's I can't remember it, but I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. I think that's the island where they're not allowed to like
they
touch
can't
each other or do anything.
Yeah, but they all do anyway, and then they all get kicked off and shit.
Love Island is basically people go there to pretend like they're going to find love, and they just basically end up like smashing each other, and it just turns into one big orgy. So
yeah,
probably the same as
you
know most islands, just not with underage children.
Yeah. So, I'm seeing a parallel between what's going on in the Bahamas, maybe with Sam Bankman-Fried.
There's something about island states, island areas, you know, jurisdictions that are, there's a lot of weird stuff, weird activity that happens. A lot of free love. Let's just call it that.
That's right. It's the heat, that island heat.
The island heat. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. Working my ass off, and I'll get some time off probably in January for a really time. We're in a very busy season now. And then, just building up the YouTube channel, just talking to people and having fun, really. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the process. I'm enjoying the people that I meet. I had a post go up, and basically all the Hex ladies want to do a massive big stream. I'm not sure if that's a good idea, given the last Hex ladies stream was very, very loose content that might get you demonetized. But hey, but it might be quite fun to do. And,
as long as you're not the host.
Shout out to the Hex ladies, by the way. Say again.
As long as you're not the host, you could have fun with that one.
Yeah, I think I might have to be the host, but I'll probably do one-to-ones. That's a bit safer.
There you go.
Yeah, like I said, guys, it's great opportunities to create and great opportunities to meet people. And I want to be getting out. You're out at the 3-year anniversary. What are the events coming up? What are people going to see in the next few days on social media?
Well, hopefully they're not going to, throw shit at us because we're out here partying at the bottom of the bear market. But basically, yeah, well, I'm expecting to get crucified. That's okay. We've got like a boat party. We've got a like some kind of a nightclub thing going on. We're actually seeing a comedy show, Dave Chappelle. That's going to be pretty great. He's one of my favorite comedians of all time. And
amazing comedian.
I think a pool party as well. And we're just gonna have fun, guys. We got to celebrate. We got to keep it light. I'm sure we're going to be streaming and documenting some of it. Hex has been around for 3 years, flawless operation. So that's worth celebrating to me. Celebrating whatever way you see fit. Just have a glass of whiskey at home. We'll cheers to you. Whatever you want, man. But yeah, guys. So any last questions for Money Gang Crypto? Because we're going to get off here pretty soon. I'm at an hour and 15.
Nice.
Guys, if you're not subscribed to Money Gang Crypto already, go do it. Go do it. You've been doing this for 6 months now, it seems like.
Yeah, something like that. I would say April, May time, I think it was. Just coming into summer, something like that. So yeah, go check it out if you like the content, or don't. It's up to you. You may find me obnoxious and annoying, but you can find me Money Gang Crypto. You'll see it because I look like the Pope in some of the pictures. Yes. And you can find me on Twitter as well, Money Gang Crypto. When are we meeting for a pint, Money Gang Crypto? Let's do it, Red Squirrel. I know that you're near where I live at the moment, so hey, man, you got me on Telegram. Give me a call. Let's go meet up. Let's get a drink. Let's do it.
By the way, if any of you guys are B to D list celebrities, you know who to call for protection.
That's it. If you need some close protection, I can find a bunch of Eastern European guys to look after you. So
yeah, that helps.
Big goons.
Hell yeah, man. All right. Thanks everybody for coming. Venus, thank you. Appreciate the comments. I'm going to keep going. I won't censor myself. I won't be a victim of the chilling effect. Hex forever, 1 billion trillion years. Hex to the moon.
Let's do it,
yeah.
man.
You guys are great. See you later.